What is going on, Alpha Hunters? Hope everybody's having a marvelous Monday. Hey, what is going on, Alpha Hunters? Hope everybody's having a marvelous Monday. We are seeing some pretty interesting price action today. There's kind of quite a bit that went on Friday. I wasn't really on the live stream, but obviously we can take a look at a lot of that and take a look at what's going on today. Very interesting switch going on as well. So we'll take a look at some of that. But nice little bit of a gap down here. If you didn't hear, the U.S. got downgraded by Moody's Friday after the bell. So we had roughly a 0.3% gap down here on the open on the SPY here. Didn't really get crazy, though. Nice trade lower. First 15 minutes sideways there for about 20. And then that was the daily low. Kind of just took off there. Nice little rise there for about 2 hours, roughly, up to the highs of the day. Pulled back for a couple hours. Nothing crazy, though. Nothing really crazy. About an hour and a half of it, I guess. And then about 30 minutes ago, nice little 15-minute pump. Past 10 minutes or so, nice little pullback. So that's kind of where we are now. It's always good to just kind of get your bearings whenever you come back from being on vacation or something like that. You always want to check out and see how things are going. So it's all right. The Qs kind of the same thing. Gap down. They traded lower. Big Tech's not doing as well today, and that's something that we're going to take a look at on the market here, because it's sort of a very interesting switch here. So we have pulled down off that gap down here. First 25 minutes or so, 30 minutes or so, kind of nice little pull down from the open. Then it had the rally that the SPY had, pullbacks more sideways here over the past couple hours. Did get that 15-minute bounce, and then 10 minutes coming into the hour here, a little bit of a pullback. So kind of interesting. IWM, nice little gap down, traded sideways here for about an hour, and then it got going on a rally very strong here on the IWM during that time period. But you can see how strong it is. IWM positive because of this rally that it did have between 9:50 my time and about 10:50. So it lasted about an hour. So I guess it was 10:50 Eastern to about 11:50 Eastern. So yeah, about an hour of rally there on the IWM Russell 2000. So looking pretty good. Didn't pull back nearly as much, I'd say, either. But that hour rally looking really solid. DIA gap down. Didn't really trade lower on the open. Kind of just traded higher a little bit. Sideways consolidated. Pushed higher. Pulled back. Okay. Looking pretty good. I would say that's probably one reason why the DIA is looking the best out of these five here. Mostly they weren't as bearish on the open. RSP, the equal weight SP 500, nice gap down. Okay, like it rallied initially, kind of dropped off there, new daily low. Then it rallied, pulled back. Okay. So it seemed like even on the open, the SP 500 actually was seeing flows. Just wasn't big tech because you can actually see the Qs here dropping pretty good. And that's where, yeah, you can see the SPY was just kind of flat during that kind of initial time period. All right. Okay. Let's go check and take a look at some things. So, one thing that's very interesting, I'm going to have to dual screen this because this is a very important thing to know. And this is what I would be a little bit cautious about here for the next couple of days. Allie, how are you? So let me get Qs set up here. Day. There we go. So right there. All right. Right there. I'm going to get rid of that. I know there's a lot on the screen here. So what I want you to kind of observe is I don't typically use this thing that I want to use. They don't even have one. Okay, that's fine. So you got a little bit of a higher high here on the SPY, and this is kind of something that's very important to kind of watch as these start to appear and kind of appear. You have a lower high here on the Qs, okay? And then we have a little bit of a pullback during said pullback. Kind of lasted a good while. You can say it kind of lasted down to this point, and we bounced. But we kind of come down to this low here, and there's another one, right? We have the SPY continue to make lower lows, and this is where the Qs actually make higher lows, and then we have a little bit of a bounce here. Didn't really happen here so much, and if I actually remember, I think it did actually happen intraday on that morning. I think Qs gap down traded higher and didn't make a new low really on the gap down. The SPY actually kind of did. It rolled over I think 30 minutes or an hour later, made a new low, and the Qs were already kind of running at that point in time. So that's why you don't really see one there. And it was kind of a similar situation here on this kind of turn as well. But I'm not going to look at the intraday ones. Now, what's really interesting is this time period. We get to this mid-October kind of time period. We have very subtle higher highs here on these wicks over a couple days. And the Qs actually have lower highs over that time period. So a little bit of a higher high on the SPY, a little bit of a lower high on the Qs, and that's typically what you were kind of looking for. You're looking for the leadership. What leads the market is changing, right? It has changed directions already. The Qs, the low that we had in late October, higher low, right there on what day was these? Thursday, October 26th to Friday, October 27th, and if you look at the ones here on the SPY actually made more lows there between Thursday and Friday. We continued down, all right? So that was kind of the indication the Qs are changing direction. The tech leadership that has you see these patterns all the time. What's interesting is today, on Monday, between Friday to Monday, we actually got it again. So Monday, we actually have a new high over Friday. The Qs do not have that high. So that is something that I wouldn't be surprised if we do pull back a little bit more this week. And that might be a little bit of a tell. That's about the only thing I kind of was seeing today, because you look at the intraday kind of price action, you see that we clearly did make a new high here on the SPY, and that's really kind of interesting. And the Qs didn't really have that. We have a lower high here on the Qs. So SPY higher high, Qs lower high, and typically when we do see that, that is when we get the change of direction, or a move then start to happen into a bearish direction, right? So if we have that higher high on the Qs, or I'm sorry, higher low on the Qs, but we have a lower, did I just say that wrong? If we have a higher low on the Qs, if compared to a lower low on the SPY, then expect probably bullishness to follow. And that's kind of what we've gotten here over the past 2 weeks on the stock market. So that's the only thing that really kind of caught my eye this morning, and I was definitely going to mention that on the live stream today if we hadn't done that. So like if we went in tomorrow and the SPY then made a new high and the Qs did not, mostly because of how strong Friday price action was. Right? Strong, very strong price action there on Friday. Was not on the live stream. Really didn't even see anything that was going on with the market until I got to where I was traveling to. So yeah, very nice bullishness there. I think I probably would be leaning maybe a little bit more bullish towards the year end, but I don't know. I'm not really changing my mind about like we see lows come in. I think they're just going to happen in Q1. So that's just kind of where I'm at with that. I don't think we're gonna see bad economic data, but then I don't think we're gonna see data that's gonna make the Fed reduce interest rates and all that we can get into looking at right now. But anyways, these are just very important things to kind of be looking at as the Qs are making higher lows and or just divergences. If we're just seeing divergences between the SPY and Qs, look at whichever one the Qs are kind of leading and go in that direction. And honestly, you can go in that direction on the SPY because the SPY will play catch up, right? The SPY's gonna play catch up. So you got like this one here in mid-October where the Qs are already starting to sell off. Well, you can take that opportunity to say, hey, SPY makes a new high, then I'll just go bearish on the SPY, expecting the SPY to kind of play catch up into that bearish direction. So use the Qs as kind of be a little bit more of that fortune telling and give you kind of the stepping stones of where to go on the SPY, kind of say. So yeah, very interesting. We'll see how that plays out. We are going to get some data tomorrow morning, and we'll take a look at that right now. Let me just get rid of all these lines. Allie, how are you doing? Let me see what you said. I know you're probably mocking me right now. It's fine. It's fine. I take the mockery. All right, trash that. All right, there we go. Let me get back to single view. Oh, that's so much better. So let's take a look. So Ali, you said, hey, Neil, no decline in this market. How can this be? I have no idea because people keep buying stuff. That's why. Honestly, it just comes to the top end. It just comes into the top end tech names. That's literally it. And it's so crowded. Like, it's just so crowded. I have no interest. I just got nothing. Got nothing for you on that. I don't want to buy. It's like buying any asset that everybody already owns. It just devalues that asset even more. All right. Take a look here at the VIX. VIX, nice little uptick today. Pulling back here. I still think. Honestly, I don't know if the top is in. I mean, I could see us still continue push higher on the market. I go back to SPY. I can see us still continue higher on the market. Maybe we pull back a little bit this week. Friday was a pretty aggressive bullish day, and I don't really even know why it was. It just was. Yeah, I mean, I could see us pull back some this week. What were the moving averages? Because they're kind of extended from the moving averages a little bit. Yeah, I mean, they're about 2% away from the moving averages. Yeah, makes sense that we'd probably pull back a little bit. Or maybe just consolidate here sideways. But I don't want to keep buying tech, right? I don't know. I don't know how long the bullishness would last. That's just kind of my opinion. I think we're going to see funds probably positioned for year end because they're going to have to get in their year end statements to clients. So I don't think there's going to be anything really crazy that happens as we go into the last month and a half of the year. And I think if there's going to be any fireworks on the market, it's going to be in Q1. That's just kind of my thoughts, my perspective, I guess. I wouldn't be looking for anything crazy. I don't know if we get back down to this low. I don't think we'll get back down to this low by year end. But I also I don't know if we take out this high either. So like July, the late July high and the late October high, we might just trade in the range between them. Right? We only got like 4 or 5 weeks left on the market for the year. Whoops. I did not mean to do that. So what if we have like a quick pullback this week, and then, yeah, I mean, we just start to just kind of do this kind of thing. for the end of the year, and then we kind of start to phase out a little bit. That's kind of logical. It makes sense that we might continue to push highs, but to say that we're going to keep going up at the pace that we did over the 2 previous weeks, there's no freaking way. The market just doesn't do that. So I do think the top's still in. I mean, we still haven't. If you say the yearly high, I do think that's in. I do. But I mean, we haven't got back to all-time highs. But people act like we've gotten to all-time highs. We're not even. We're still like 10% away. As I said, today came news that the war escalates in the Lebanese border. Yeah, I saw that. And the market doesn't care. We'll see what crude oil looks like. Let's get to run it through this. Dollar. All right, dollar. So dollar, I really kind of thought last week on Thursday is looking a little bit bullish just because I thought this was the retest. It might have been a little bit of a higher retest. It looked very interesting here. Ooh, it looks very interesting because maybe it was just a little bit of a higher retest, but these still are not exactly back-to-back like trading days here on the dollar to where it's like massive rollover. It's going to come down to probably tomorrow's CPI, which we can take a look at that. So CPI tomorrow morning is probably going to be the determinant for the week. The expected year-over-year inflation rate is going to expected to come in at 3.3%. 3.3%. The prior 2 months actually came in at 3.7. I do remember that. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know on CPI how this is going to plan out, especially on the core side. The core is heavily watched right now because this is the one that the Fed can really impact with interest rates. They can't really do so much about all the other inflation stuff, but the core, that's the one that the Fed really can more or less impact with inflation or interest rates, rather. So that'd be interesting to see what the core comes in at. Right now, it's expected to come in at 4.1%. So we did see yields. I'm going to take a look at yields real quick. So we did see yields pull back a little bit to start this month, right? We saw that a little bit, and that's kind of coming off the press conference from the FOMC meeting, and that's kind of where interest rates dropped, especially like long term, and there was reports that a lot of people's, not a lot, but there was definitely people getting back out there and putting in like mortgage applications and stuff like that, or trying to qualify for home loans and stuff. So, like that, and that kind of just tells you that people still have money. People are still willing to spend, and I don't know. It's such a weird time with fundamental analysis on the market because it's like I don't see where the growth comes from, but I also don't see the recession happening. I mean, there's still a lot of money out there, man. There's still a lot of money out there, and I think that's just kind of proved it like over the past couple of weeks when we saw rates come down. So 10 and 2 inversion, kind of just hanging out here. Nothing really going on. How's the GLD gold? Definitely saw a nice little pullback there last week. Maybe has a little bit of a hangout, but I would expect it to kind of continue a little bit further. Yeah, you started getting into that 178 area. I think you're probably just going to be looking to be bullish on GLD. HYG, the high yield corporate bonds. Nice little flag pattern here. Nice little flag pattern that we got here. It's kind of a long one. This is kind of a long one. So, but it did rip it pretty hard off those 2 days after the FOMC meeting. So it's getting really close to the 10-year, the 10 EMA coming up. So hopefully, you'd see the 10 EMA kind of support at this price level where it's kind of at now, and push it higher going forward here for the next maybe a couple weeks. But yeah, I mean, it looks like a pretty good flag pattern there. LQD. Ooh, this looks like a pennant pattern. Kind of got some downward sloping highs and uptrending lows. So yeah, it kind of looks like a little bit of a pennant pattern, kind of coming to a flux point here. So CPI seems like it's gonna be the real deal tomorrow because you're gonna get a lot of directional decision making on a lot of these charts here. Okay. And then what about the TLT? How's the TLT doing? So the TLT looks a little not as bullish. I don't know. This one looks a little bit more confusing. You definitely have some higher lows coming in through here, but you don't have that pennant pattern like the LQD does. You have a little bit more of a sharp sloped, like lower highs coming in here over the past 4 trading days. So that's a very interesting look. So it might have just been, kind of like the Q SPY kind of divergence. You might see a little bit of a divergence there between the LQD and the TLT on this little high that it had here last week. That's very interesting on the TLT. I don't know if that sets up more bullish or bearish, and honestly, the LQD has a little bit better of a setup and definitely much more of a pennant pattern. HYG definitely has like a nice little flag pattern kind of coming in here. Okay. So yeah, that's kind of a real quick rundown. All right, let's see what you got. Ali, you said no shift from tech in this year. It does. Yeah, it definitely doesn't look like it. And that was kind of my mindset like 2 years ago was that tech was very much a defensive type of sector, like because everybody uses tech. But yeah, to me, you still need to pick your spots in tech. It's not like, oh, you can just go into tech, right? It's not like you can just go into tech and it's just you're defensive. You're immune to any kind of economic downturn. I don't think it's that. People will still be selective on certain things, but I think it has gotten that mindset though that tech is now defensive because tech is in every aspect of our society. So let's take a look at some stocks. Kind of want to just look around. So Tesla's up 4.5%. So Tesla has absolutely ripped it since last Thursday when I looked at this. Kind of even threw out a little bit of a trade idea here, which looked pretty good on Friday. Look for this retest into this low here from last Monday. Well, today, apparently somebody was buying because you had 15 minutes of bearishness, and then somebody was like, okay, it's buying time. And then for the next, oh man, what is that? 2 hours? I mean, it was just getting bought up. And kind of has a little bit of a head and shoulders kind of action here. Right? Kind of has a little bit of this head and shoulders kind of action here. So if it and I do know we do have this huge gap from earnings, and that was kind of one thing that might have been where maybe TSLA tries to come fill this gap, because it is a pretty large gap here. So maybe it does try to come fill this gap. But yeah, TSLA looking pretty good there. At least today looking really good. One thing that's been lagging behind, AAPL. Now, we do know, when you look at the past 2 weeks here, AAPL has really changed it. So looking pretty good here. Definitely got above this pivot around the 183 level that it had a couple weeks back. So I would look for any kind of retest into that level. And maybe if it happens just as a sideways and it drops off one day as the 10 EMA is coming up, I'd imagine it just kind of gets bought and maybe then bounces here over the next couple of weeks. Probably makes some sense. But I mean, if you're trying to look for trades on big tech, I would wait because Microsoft and AAPL both have just absolutely ripped over the past 2 weeks. Microsoft hit all time highs on Friday, all time closing high on Friday as well. So, yeah, I mean, Microsoft, yeah, not much else to say there. I mean, just absolutely monster there. My dividend stocks are every day. My dividend stock are everyday red and the big six everyday green. Oh, is it down to six? Are we down to just big six now? Is that what we're down to? Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. I mean it's just how the market goes. I mean the market gets it. It just does this. I've never, and you never anybody. I would say under the age of definitely under 40 has never seen this kind of situation before. I would definitely be more willing to say all the way up to like age 45 because Tesla's out of the seven. You have kicked Tesla out of the seven. Got it. Because we've never seen what markets look like when you get right when you've had these long bull markets and you start to have that really tight concentration of market leadership like we did. And the reason why I'm saying, if you don't remember this, younger than the age of 45, really I would say 45, but if you're 50 and older, you've kind of seen some of this, like the late 90s, the tech concentration that happened there, and energies. I would even be willing to say energies in the 80s and 90s was very concentrated. The stock market was. And so you continue to see those sectors, or the energy sector of the 70s, 80s, and 90s, just continue to be that dominant. And then like you just look at the heat map now. Like where's the energy sector now? It's like the sixth, one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eighth. It's the eighth largest sector now in the S&P 500. I mean, it's nothing. That is nothing. And that's just kind of what happens, right? You go back to like 1920s. It was all those manufacturing companies, railroad. Well, I wouldn't say railroads then, but manufacturing companies back in the day, dude. They were the big ones. They were the ones that led, and they were super. It got super concentrated because that was the Industrial Revolution, right? So, 1910s, 1920s. So, yeah, I mean, it happens. It's like you can't fight it, but at the same time, it's like I don't really want to be exposed to it. Once it gets a little bit loony. So that's just kind of where I'm at with that. Anyways, I want to take a look. So there was something very important that came out Friday after the bell. I don't know if this article will say anything, but it was basically, and I didn't look at anything yesterday. I had a very bad cell reception where I was, but adding to the cautious tone or concerns about the U.S. government's finances after Moody's changed its outlook on its debt to negative from stable, and as another shutdown deadline looms on Friday. Yeah, lawmakers lack the will to resolve the financial crisis, the fiscal crisis, not the financial crisis, the fiscal crisis, as the debt situation is made worse by higher interest rates. Former Fed official Bill Dooley warned. Yeah. Okay. Ali said, I can't understand the market at all at the moment. This bullishness, no ways, just straight. Yeah, I agree with you. I could actually map out the cues. because I could do a wave count easy here. Where's the freaking counter? Where's the counter? There we go. So I'd say that would be the 1, 2, all the way to Thursday was 3. Got a little bit of pullback 4, and that was pretty good steep pullback. There was 5. It'd be something like that. That would be like my count up over the past 2 weeks. I'm going to be very interested to see if the Qs take out the high from Friday, my whole switch thing that I kind of went into earlier in the live stream, at the beginning of the live stream, then that's going to set up not well. I did snag a little bit of a bearish position this morning on the SPY, about like right here. This is mostly for I just expect a pullback this week. As soon as it's profitable, it's like I'm gonna take it. I'm not gonna sit on it. So, do you know the markets? Do you know how the market's algorithms work? So I definitely don't. I mean, I would imagine it has a lot to do with volume, because the funds and companies, organizations that utilize algorithms, they also have to make sure that there's enough liquidity in whatever move that the algorithm is detecting, that they can get in and out at a with being profitable. And the other thing is, I would imagine, there's probably some triggers on oversold, overbought conditions, but they definitely monitor volume. Volume is very important to those guys. So that would be. I have never dealt with the big firms that I've never been with a big firm that ever did that, so I don't really know all the pieces that kind of go into that. But I would imagine there's several criteria that kind of go into it, especially like if you're going to do it on the major market, like there's nothing really crazy that you'd have to do. Mostly you're probably going to be looking to be bullish, right? I mean, that's the easy way to kind of go. You probably have pretty good analytics based on, in bull market, like what are pullbacks, what starts to be like overbought conditions, and those kinds of things. But I'd imagine it's everything that you do in normal trading, right? It's everything in normal trading, your risk management, everything like that. But they just set it up. It's all automatic to them, right? If the market trades down here rapidly and took out this low that we had back from late October, yeah, I mean, we're probably going much lower, right? And that's kind of what happened here. Like we had this pullback in July into August. We had this pullback and we bounced, and then we took it out, and then we retested in that level, and then we went lower. I mean, this is kind of the way it goes, right? I mean, you do that in trading, but they just do that in using computers. They just come up with a trading plan. They just put it into a computer, and the computer does it. It's not much. It's not much different than just trading yourself. They just put it into a computer program. That way, they don't have to pay traders. The computer can do it, man. So, and you can do it. You can actually set up algos and trading bots and all that kind of stuff. I just look at those markets like we haven't gone anywhere. And see, when did we? 2 years, 2 years and a few months. We first got to this price level back in June 21 when we first traded to this price level. And I'm really kind of looking at this 4,300 line. Sorry. So I'm first looking at this 4,300 line, but and then we came back. We hit it, bounced off it in September of 21, came back down to it February, March, and April, and then bounced up to it in August of last year. Got through it in June, then we came back down through it in October, and now we went back up through it here this month, just last week. So yeah, it's fine to be bullish. I just still would rather wait. Last year was October low. Now this year also. That's a good question. I saw that someone threw that idea out there. It's like, are we going to be able to get through this year's October low? I think we will. I don't think we're going to do it this year. I think for the most part, the market's probably just done for the year. And if we do kind of do that, if we do kind of just go flat, or maybe we have a little bit of an uptrend, I don't think it'll be anything crazy, but if we do push a little bit higher and we get into the new year, I would probably be more willing than not to see this probably pull back. As I think, I don't. So here's the thing: I don't think we're gonna get any reason to be bearish. I don't think there will be anything crazy on data. Like that's inflation, GDP. I don't think there's going to be anything crazy like that. I think we will probably just continue to be status quo, and it might just go sideways. It might go higher and come down just before the end of the year. But I don't think there's really a big reason to go bearish, unless GDP really drops off. And I mean really drops off, because that would say some of those people that were calling for like recession, like after last quarter's GDP numbers, where it was like 4.9%, there was some people out there saying, yeah, we're probably going to be right into a recession right after this quarter. If we start to get GDP numbers that are that bad, where it looks like we are into a recession almost immediately after last quarter, that's about the one only situation I see that happen. I don't think that happens. But that would be about the only situation where I could see us actually sell down here, maybe over the last 5-6 weeks of the year. How many weeks do we actually have? Give me a sec. We have, so this week, I'll count this week: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 weeks. 7 weeks. So we got 7 weeks. I'm really hoping the Qs do not take out Friday's high. All right. You said when you say market, then I'll look. All right, that's fair observation. And I think if I do remember, I get that point. So when you say the market, then don't talk about the SPY. And that's another reason why I'm not exactly bullish on the market. It's just this is the most concentrated the top end stocks have ever been. Like, we've never had a weighting for the top 2 stocks on the S&P 500. We've never had a weighting as high as they are, and the top 10 stocks on the S&P 500. So it's pretty crazy historic. But yeah, as far as your comment on talking about market and then but I mean, this is why I have Apple, and this is one thing that's kind of concerning. Like, if you're trying to be a market bull, like Apple. Like, Microsoft here recently just took a dip, and the Qs went up. Apple's been flat on its daily low. I mean, kind of down towards daily lows. I mean, it had the gap down. It traded down for the first 15, 30 minutes, but it's just been down here the whole day. I mean, the SPY had a nice rally. Even the Qs had a nice rally. Microsoft had a little bit of that rally. They had gap down. They haven't taken out its daily high from the open, little wick. Even here over the past 10 minutes, like Microsoft had a pretty good sell down. And that wasn't there really on the SPY Qs. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like it's a definitely, I get like talking about the market and saying like you should only look at like the top 10 stocks, the top 10 weighted stocks. I get that, man, but it is still just the market. It is really weird. You know what I'm gonna do? I didn't do sector rotation. I'm gonna have to add that in. So sector rotation, because this would be kind of good to see. I kind of want to look at Friday as well. So sector performance for the day. So we got nice. We had some sectors actually gap up too. Okay, so man, I mean, this is a pretty good day to look at sector rotation because we have quite, things are kind of at the upper end, things are down at the lower end. A lot of variety in the middle. It's not all bunched up. There's pretty good spacing between all the lines. So energy is actually the day's top outperformer. XLY discretionary, so it probably has a lot to do with Tesla, TSLA. Healthcare, staples outperforming, industrials outperforming, okay. Materials underperforming, communications underperforming, financials underperforming, tech underperforming. That makes sense because Microsoft and AAPL are underperforming on the day, but they crushed it the 2 previous weeks, so maybe they're just resting. Real estate, utilities at the lower ends of the day. Okay. I'm gonna take out that gap. What is it? What's the intraday price action look like? Yeah, healthcare, or not healthcare. Discretionaries makes a lot of sense because Tesla ripped it there for like an hour. I mean, it was like 2 hours. They just crushed it. They had pulled back like the first 15 minutes on the open, and then 2 hours they just got bought up. So that makes sense that discretionary is probably at the higher end. Utilities at the lower end. A lot of things kind of bunched around the performance of the SP 500 for the day. Okay. Rather interesting. I would be much more willing to be bullish on, if you, and I've made no indication otherwise about, which one you'd rather have, Microsoft or AAPL, and I would just much rather have Microsoft. So oversold or overbought. Microsoft been overbought here for a while. The overbought RSI line is actually starting to drop here in the overbought range or in the overbought area. And then we got AAPL. Yeah, it got up to the overbought. Looks pretty good. I mean, it looks pretty good here on the MACD. starting to get positive. Okay. What was really interesting when I did look at this last night on the Qs is looking at how the Qs are hugely overbought as well. Okay. Yeah, that's why we could definitely probably see a pullback, but yeah, I mean, it was last week was just so strong that I just don't think we're gonna have like crazy bearishness as we go into the end of the year. Just because I do think people are going to try and chase, the move that we had last 2 weeks, and I think any kind of pullback will just kind of be met with buyers. But I mean, I can see us having a pullback, like maybe this week, and then maybe we push higher. Next kind of end out November, going into December, and kind of just fizzle out, just kind of go flat as we end out the year, and maybe pull back like right there towards the end of December. But yeah, I mean it was a strong move last week. A lot of that was led by bond yields, but bond yields started to tick back higher. And not to say that there's, not to say they're looking super bad, but um, nice little consolidation here over the past week and a half here on a 10-year yield. It's not a bad little look. Yeah, Microsoft though. Microsoft's a beast. How's Alphabet down? Alphabet about neutral for the day. Chase the mega cap stocks. They're overvalued. Hey, see that's what you kind of like about trading. That's why I like about trading. It's not so much about fundamentals. I mean, it's about perceived value rather than um, I would say fundamentally, like, what do you perceive the value of that stock to be? Some people will say, you know, Apple's a $250 stock company, right? So they're willing to buy it all the way up to $250. So I mean, it's one thing that makes trading very, very challenging. Alphabet, okay, but I think one thing that's going to be looked back on this year is how much tech is just absolutely dominated its market share, market presence compared to the other sectors, especially like big tech, the top six that you say, the Magnificent Six. It's it's crazy, man. It's just sometimes you just sit on your hands and just appreciate the market for what it is, an imperfect living organism. Amazon. Amazon looks pretty good here, man. Nice little consolidation here. It's kind of a tough spot. It ripped it after its earnings. Pretty good. Tesla looking pretty good. How's semiconductors doing? Nvidia. See, Nvidia continuing to climb. It's going to have earnings next week. Next week earnings here. Nvidia. Nvidia actually looks like it's going to make a run to all-time highs. Look at that. Look at this. I mean, it's getting close to making its run to all-time highs again. So Nvidia not looking too bad. AMD wasn't looking too bad. Intel, nice little gap down here on Intel. Okay. AVGO. AVGO? What the? AVGO had a 5% day at all-time highs. That is crazy. AVGO. That is a move. Yeah, just the whole day, man. Whole day. Jeez. Micron. Qualcomm. Qualcomm had a nice little breakout day on Friday as well, up 3.4%. Wow. TSM, how's TSM doing? I mean, TSM had a monster day. Look at that. Pretty large gap up. It was up over 6%. Got above this high from a big sell down day back in August. Yeah, I mean, it looks really good. I would be bullish on this price action, actually. For how bullish that candle looks on Friday, and then today, nice little lower wick consolidation. Yeah, I'd be bullish on that. I wish I would have saw that earlier. I would have took it. I'd take that. But yields aren't doing a whole lot. They pulled back pretty good amount since the highs of the morning. Yields climbed pretty good to start the day, and then they've just been pulling back pretty steadily throughout the day. What happens when what's going to happen with all those big tech companies when people no longer want to like really care to pay for data and it just doesn't matter? All those data centers out there like Alphabet, Amazon, Microsoft have all those data centers. Like they're just going to be fixed costs. Nvidia earnings are the last big news this year besides something bad happening. Israel happening in Israel, and I think it will. Yeah, I mean something might happen in Israel, but like, will the market care? Yeah, probably not. Alrighty, Alpha Hunters. We'll see what happens tomorrow. That'd be the only thing I'm kind of continuing to watch. This is one reason why I'm just kind of looking at the Qs. I mean, 'cause we do have this little bit of a switch here between, we got lower highs here on the Qs, SPY. We had those higher highs, especially this morning. So that's kind of the one thing I'm kind of looking like. We're seeing that tech leadership, even AAPL, not really doing as well during the day. So maybe we see them drop off tomorrow. Come check into this like 183 level, and for a pullback maybe into tomorrow after we get CPI. Don't forget that we do get CPI tomorrow morning. So maybe we do see a little bit of a reason for the market to pull back this week, start the week. But for how much the market moved over the 2 previous weeks, I'd imagine just a buying opportunity. So maybe inflation comes in a little hot. Maybe the inflation comes in, which is expected, 3.3%. Maybe it comes in at like 3.5 or 3.6. I don't know. Oh yeah, I want to check crude before we get off. Let's check crude energy. So crude definitely had a nice little breakdown last week. Nice little bounce. Nice bounce here on gasoline and heating oil. Nice little bounce here. Heating oil at a pretty significant breakdown. Well, watch out coming into this level. That might be an issue for heating oil. Let me take a look at. Jeez. Copper. There we go. Here's copper. Copper getting a nice bounce today. Wow. Copper. Very strong today. Okay. All right. Outfunders, have a great rest of your day. Take care. We'll see what CPI comes in at. See if the Qs actually do make a high over Friday. Because if they don't, I just definitely see that pullback. I'd be curious to see how much of a pullback we actually do get then. If it would be lasting longer than a week or whatnot. Outfunders, have a great rest of your day. Take care.